Hi YouTube boxing fans, this is Charlie with Boxing Focus and quick recap of last night's events. Ricky Hatton sadly losing on his comeback fight, and Berto and Robert Guerrero. Um, I got some constructive criticism on the channel. Basically, the videos are boring, uh, so I'm going to try and be a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more spontaneous. Just one recording, like it or leave it. So do apologise if it's a bit raw at times. Now, let's start with Ricky Hatton. Now, I'm a big Ricky Hatton fan. As a Brit, I have to be. It's just part of our makeup. But the people person, one of the more human boxers. Much more like the average working guy in terms of the way he lives his life. You just gotta. If you're British and you don't have a soft spot for Ricky Hatton, then there's something wrong with you. But that aside, I was not very hopeful going into this fight. I posted on my Facebook page that 34 going on 44. He looked awful. He looked so old. And I know people were saying, yeah, well, of course he's been hit a lot, but like that's a good thing. He's lived his life well. He's fought with his heart in his sleeve. He's a cracking fighter, but that takes its toll. And then with the drinking and the weight gain and loss and stuff, he's at 34. I was worried that he didn't have it anymore, and that's the way it turned out. But I thought there was a lot of Ricky Hatton bias going on in the way the fight was being called. Paulie Malignaggi obviously had a vested interest in Hatton winning, saying they had Hatton 5 rounds up, just unfathomable. I mean, like I say, I wanted Ricky Hatton to win, but he was just walking into almost every shot that Shenchenko threw, and there's no way that an impartial observer, which is what the judges are supposed to be, could have had Ricky Hatton winning that fight. He was getting hit all the time. You're supposed to make people miss and make them pay. I mean, people kept on going on. Oh, yeah, he's having moments of success. Well, yeah, moments. And for the rest of the 2.5 minutes of a round, he was a walking punching bag. So just walking forward, getting hit. That's not an effective boxing strategy, and it basically leads to you getting knocked out. It was a sweet body shot that put him down. It obviously hurt intensely. It was, but I don't think he had much left. He was looking like he was on his last legs, and I think that's the end of Ricky Hatton the fighter. All good things come to an end. That's certainly, I'm not going to mourn Ricky Hatton's loss. I think he gave us all he had to give. There wasn't any more left in the tank. Awful lot of stuff on the radio this morning on the airwaves about the depression and how's he going to fill the void and all this bollocks. Rich man's problems, my friend. I thought the whole suicide stuff was disingenuous at best, and that's not a knock on Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton's a brand as well as a person, brand Hatton, and unfortunately in business and promotion's a big business. Being associated with stuff like drugs is a big no. He had to. He got caught having a good time, and what person with money and relative youth doesn't go out and have a good time? He's in the majority, not the minority. He just unfortunately was naive enough to get caught on camera. For me personally, it didn't bother me, but for Brand Hatton, there's a lot of stuck-up people out in the world calling shots, so he had to manage that, and he did. I don't think there's going to be any further issues. I think he learnt his lessons most likely. He's got a lot of money, trophy wife, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel sorry for Ricky Hatton. Call me a hater if you will for that, but You know, the guy's got everything that the majority of us would like, including, most importantly, I feel that he's got a very well respected record in boxing as a fighter. You know, he's very very decorated. So, yeah, don't feel sorry for Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton's he's been brilliant for the sport. He's accomplished a lot, and yeah, hats off to him. And he'll be doing his promoting, or he'll be playing golf, or he'll be driving sports cars. If you feel sorry for Ricky Hatton, if you're worried about what's happening in his life, I think you've got your priorities a little bit mixed up. Now, yeah. So hat tip to Ricky Hatton. We'll look forward to seeing what he brings next to the sport. Let's move on quickly to the Ghost Guerrero against Andre the Beast Berto. Now, this was a fight. This was a war. These guys went at it hard in a phone booth kind of fight, which was a big surprise. Especially with Guerrero's, he looked like he was more competitive on the outside, and it was a strange one. He came out and he went right after Berto, and he held and he hit, and he kind of put Berto down in the first round. That was a very fishy knockdown. It wasn't even really a clean punch. He was holding as he was hitting. He kind of like muscled Berto down. It was very bad. The referee in this fight was atrocious. This is one of the worst refereeing displays that you will see in boxing. It is really bad from start to finish. So you have a knockdown that's not really a knockdown in the first round. But Guerrero, he's going after Berto and he's doing a good job. Let's not, not trying to indicate that Berto was having his own way or anything like that. He gets put down again in the third. So after 3 rounds, he's 5 points down, and that means that he's got to win 7 in the next 9 to make it a draw. So he's dug a huge hole for himself there with the help of the referee. But from then on, Berto takes over the fight. Guerrero he gets caught up in this. It's kind of like he's mashing Berto with his head. This is one of the worst things about the fight. This is where the referee really lets Berto down. This is not a boxing match. This is a pitch battle. This is a fight where there's almost no rules. I was thinking in my head before doing the video, comparing it to MMA, but it's not even MMA. You're not allowed to use your head in MMA. What the referee, whose name I haven't looked up, should be doing is, you see, the most recent one that springs to mind is Victor Ortiz versus Mayweather, and Ortiz is coming in with his head and he's getting it right in Mayweather's face before the headbutt, and Cortez specifically tells him multiple times, "You can't do that, son." He stamps it out, kinda. Obviously not enough, because Ortiz comes flying in with a headbutt shortly afterwards. But he's doing something about it. And in this Berto Guerrero fight, the referee he never even calls it once, and the damage it does to Berto's eyes over the course of the fight. Guerrero's constantly rubbing the top of his head into Berto's face, and by the end of the fight, Berto's eyes are completely swollen shut. Both of them. And this is not done by punches. This is done almost exclusively with the head. There was a bit of swelling under the right eye caused early on by a punch, but after that, it was all the head. And it was disgraceful that it was allowed to continue. And despite this, Berto is dominating Guerrero. Guerrero's just kind of like head down, kind of Brandon Rios against, who's that tall guy? Was it Abril? Just kind of like head down, just kind of throw in ineffective body shots without much power. Didn't really seem to know what he was doing. Whereas Berto was kind of leaning against the ropes and then making a bit of space and popping in with these devastating uppercuts. From the 4th round to the 12th, it was just a constant stream of Berto highlights. The crowd was going, oh. He was landing so many devastating shots, and Guerrero, he's got some chin, but he absolutely, if you just saw the last 8 rounds of this fight, sorry, the last 9 rounds of this fight, you would say that Berto walked the fight on the cards, but instead Guerrero gets a hometown decision. You know what I mean by a hometown decision. 116 to 110 was awful. Um, but what can you do? The referee's working in Guerrero's favour. Judges are in his favour. It's in his hometown. Berto, other than being a bit slow out the blocks, it didn't seem to have warmed up properly. Other than that, he did everything he could and wasn't given a fair shake. But it was a great fight. It was very, very entertaining. Like I say, great fight. Berto wins the boxing match, but Guerrero wins the fight. Because the referee basically didn't stamp any kind of rules resembling pugilism on this one. And I actually lost quite a bit of respect for Guerrero because at the end, it's a close 12th round, and Guerrero's trying to put a stamp on the end of the round, and he does catch Berto with the last few seconds with a really good shot. And he just goes after him, and he keeps punching, and the bell sounds, and he keeps punching, and then Berto's looking at him, he's like, "Yo, hey dog, the bell's gone." And Guerrero carries on punching him and nails him in the really hard with several punches in the face, and that was disgusting. That was absolutely disgusting. He heard the bell. He was just pumped up and going after it, and he fucking owes Berto an apology, man. That was absolutely out of order. The end of that fight. Don't care how pumped up you are. You've got to have a little bit of integrity, a little bit of honor. That was just there are certain fighters who use punching after the bell to kind of rile opponents. So you think like Hopkins was quite famous for it, especially if an opponent had done it to him, he would then do it for the next 3 rounds. But that was in the fight, when you stand to gain something by riling your opponent, by making them lose their composure, or psychologically, whichever. This is the end of the fight. It's been a fucking tough fight. You've been absolutely smashing your opponent in the face illegally with your head. You've been, going at it in a war. His eyes are swollen shut. What is the point in continuing to hit him when you can hear the bell? He's hearing the bell and he's saying to you, "Hey man, the bell's going, the bell's going." And the referee, this pathetic old man, absolute disgrace to the sport, should never be allowed to referee a world title fight again. He's just kind of like stood a mile away, just indifferently as this is going on. That was pretty bad. Referee, shocking. Again, it is one of the worst refereeing displays that you could sadly see in the sport. What? It'd be nice to see Berto given a rematch on even terms. Neutral venue, neutral judges, and a referee who won't stand for the kind of idiocy. And say idiocy, the referee was being idiotic. It's a fight. If Guerrero's getting away with it, then you can't really blame him for continuing to use illegal tactics. But yeah, bit disappointed in that. I think I'm impartial. I'm not looking to. I didn't have any money on the fight. I don't have a vested interest in either fighter. I thought Berto was just. Yeah, Guerrero fought a terrible fight. Other than the use of the head, which you're constantly boring it into Berto's face. Other than that, he fought an awful fight from rounds 4 to 12. But he's got a tremendous chin and tremendous determination and conditioning, and he's obviously very up for a battle. Be interesting to see. He's calling out Mayweather now. I think Berto deserves a rematch after that. That was one of the most entertaining fights in a while. There's been some good ones this year. There's been some very good fights this year. So we'll see. Guerrero just seems too easy to hit. But Berto was landing some good shots, but I don't think he got particular power on any of them. And when Guerrero comes up against a guy who I don't want to say puts his shots together better, but gets more behind his shots, he could well be in trouble at welterweight. So yeah, interesting. So, second loss of Berto's career, but he's got plenty to offer. Very unlucky in this fight. Guerrero was holding a lot. The referee really wasn't doing anything about it, and then in the end, yeah, he started warning Guerrero about it. And then after about a minute of warning Guerrero, he starts warning Berto about it. Berto's like, "But I'm not the one holding." Yeah, it was pretty. It was at the end when he pointed this out. Guerrero had a go at him in the post-fight interview. It was, yeah, Berto after that fight, even though he loses, Berto goes up in my estimation. That he needs to start warming up properly. How many times is he going to get caught cold early in fights? And Guerrero goes down in my estimation. Tactically terrible. It's really wasn't displaying that much skill, and then he did a few pretty unethical things. So that's the way it is. There's sometimes you just got to get the W. Doesn't matter how, but yeah, that one was questionable. Right, let me know what you think. What do you think of Hatton? Do you think he's going to come back? Let's hope not. I don't think he's got anything left to offer, and you certainly don't want to see him going against a bigger puncher. Yeah, in fact, just like one last thing on Hatton. One of my friends was saying, he should have taken a warm-up fight, but in a way, it was good that he didn't take a warm-up fight. Shenchenko is not a big puncher. He's not a great fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a good, solid world-level fighter, but he's not a dangerous fighter. He's not kind of like the Pacquiao mold where it's going to take your head off with one shot. And the danger with Hatton having a warm-up fight was that his next fight may not have been a Shenchenko. It may have been Paulie Malignaggi. And I know what people say Paulie Malignaggi's feather-fisted, but he's been a lot stronger up at welter. And I would expect that he hits significantly harder than Shenchenko does, and Malignaggi's only gotten better since his loss to Hatton, and he reportedly had a bad camp for that. I think Hatton, had he had a warm-up fight, which he would have won because he's good enough, he may well have actually, in the long term, suffered more damage because he would have been in against could have been in against a bigger puncher and taken much harder shots, and he was going out on his shield. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that Hatton lost because I think it's good for him as a person. And now I can move on to his rich man problems. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Let me know whether you think Guerrero was justified in his tactics, or whether that was whether you were as disgusted as I was by use of the head and the end of the fight. Like I say, Berto won the boxing match, but Guerrero wins the fight, and and that's what goes in the record books. Oh yeah, tell a lie. One more last thing. Keith Thurman against Carlos Quintana. Wow, I'm very impressed by Keith Thurman, and he blew Quintana away. And I know Quintana's getting a bit older now, but he's posed some big problems for some very good fighters. And he was never in that fight. Jesus, he was caught by a superb. Like the body shot against Hatton was a good one, but this one was stomach curdling. You could feel, like, you're just watching it, you could feel the shockwave just kind of passing through Quintana, and he had to use the rope to pull himself up, and credit to him for getting up. It was early in the fight, so he, I think if that was any later, he's not getting up. But yeah, Thurman was just hunting him down and blowing him away with big power shots. I like Thurman as a fighter. I think he's got a lot going for him. It's kind of like David Haye, but in the I think it's the suit. It's the light middle. Again, should look that up. But yeah, he's. I see him going places. So there's another one to look out for. He was the standout of the rest of the fights. And yeah, I think he's going to be making waves in 2013. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and yeah, I'll see you in the comments.